Good afternoon, everybody. I know there's still a few more people that might be logging on, but in the interest of time, um, we will just get started. If you have questions, just send it to the chat and I will um, call on you to ask a question to Minister Kerzner or Minister Hamid. And I was going to hand it over to Minister Hamid. I'm not sure. Oh, there's. Okay, so yeah, we'll just get started. So I'll start with Minister Hamid and then we'll go over to Minister Kerzner and then we will go out to questions. So with that,
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here, and I'd like to welcome you all to this media roundtable. Whether you're joining from Toronto, Mississauga, Brampton, or from newsrooms that serve communities across the province, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for taking the time out because I know that ethnic media plays an essential role in a democracy. You do more than report news. You bridge languages, cultures, and experiences. You amplify voices that are often overlooked in mainstream coverage, and you help new Canadians navigate unfamiliar spaces while helping them understand their rights and responsibilities. So you play a very critical role in a democracy, especially now in a time of rapid change. Your work builds trust, it informs policy, it strengthens local cohesion. So, our government is a big fan of the work you do, and we have been. And just personally myself too, right? As speaking as a Pakistani Ontarian, I know firsthand how important accurate contextual reporting is for our communities. I know that my parents would go and pick up ethnic newspaper religiously, like almost religiously every Friday or Thursday whenever it came out, and sit there read it back to back. And that's how they learned about what was happening in the province, what was happening in the country, before they discovered other media outlets. So whether we're discussing access to education, economic opportunity, or issues such as housing affordability and crime, your platform allows us, the government, to share both challenges and successes with nuances and authenticity. And for that, we really help you. So just to keep it short, today's roundtable represents a continuation of that dialogue. As you know, our government is committed to working with you. Solicitor General Kerzner will talk more about the bill, but we want you to know that it is we're very supportive in making sure that Ontario's diverse communities are kept informed and actively included and heard in key conversations regarding the future of this province. That said, I hope you can use this. I hope we can use this roundtable to listen, to learn, and to build stronger partnership. Thank you again for being here, and I look forward to a productive and meaningful discussion.
all right, thank you. So with that, I'll just go right over to Minister Kerzner.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here. I've had a chance to meet some of you around my travels, and I'm a very big supporter, as Minister Hamid said, in our broader ethnic media team. It's very important. I first want to give a shout out and just tell you that the dynamics between myself and Minister Hamid are very special. From the earliest days that he joined us here in the Ministry of the Solicitor General, he followed my great colleague, Graham McGregor. And what Minister Hamid has helped us do is execute with vision the priorities of public safety. His team helps us a lot on the research projects that we do. And Minister Hamid has done a phenomenal job in helping us advance the priority of fighting auto theft and advocating continuously for meaningful bail reform. Last week, on Thursday, I started the debate on Bill 119. Bill 119 is our spring piece of public safety legislation. It is like clockwork. Fall, we introduce a bill, and spring, we introduce a bill. And part of the components in this bill was to go to practical things that will help people feel that much more safer. In transit, as an example, if you're on Toronto's transit system or the Metrolinx Go Transit, or you live in Ottawa OC Transpo, it means that the special transit constables that help keep transit safe for riders will now have additional authority, effective July, to stop somebody from openly using illegal drugs on transit. It's another way that we can feel safer. And this way, they will have new authority to make arrests, and we're very happy with that. We're also in this bill looking at going after the bad actors on towing, because there's a lot of good actors on towing, companies that have been around a long time, but there's people that prey on the vulnerable and that take their money And we are going and cracking down hard on these bad actors. We also want to make sure that if anyone was ever victimized through human trafficking or something like that, and if a criminal made that person incur debt to give them the money, that there will be debt relief for a person that has been trafficked or a victim. That's something that we wanted to work on, and that's important as well. A few other great tidbits, but I'll wait for your questions. And again, Shannon, thank you so much. We're lucky to have Shannon with us today.
Okay, thank you so much. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask, please just message me in the group chat so I know to call on you. But to start, I know Bill at Greca TV has a question, so I will go to you.
Thank you, Shannon. It's nice to see the minister. Minister Kerzner, you attended practically every ethnic event that has happened, and we truly appreciate that. And as I look to the initiatives that you're taking in this Protecting Ontario Streets and Communities Act 2026, I see this is a very important but very big undertaking. And I don't want to take time, but whether it's the OPP commissioner allowed to publish high-risk offenders or giving special constables at TTC and other travel media special authority to act, or how to conduct the tow trucks during an accident or whatever. It's a big undertaking. So my first question is that in order to conclude this act and become law eventually, do you have to wait for the other pertinent acts to happen first, or they'll follow with regulations? And the reason I ask is, for example, when I look at the amending the Provincial Offences Act, it's something that involves, of course, the AG, and perhaps Minister Hamid can answer that as well. I see that now, without judicial presence, the prosecutor and the defendant can enter a plea bargain. And my concern is that, is there any provision, for example, that private citizens that don't have the knowledge of a professional prosecutor will be at a disadvantage unless there's a safeguard for the non-represented defendants? And thank you both.
Yeah, well, firstly, Bill, a shout out to our incredible Greek community. I love my Greek community in my riding of York Centre, and you are a tremendous representative, the best of the Greek community media. So thank you. Some of the stuff will actually happen on July 1. The changes that I'm making for the authority that I can grant special constables is happening almost immediately. Other stuff will have to wait for the legislation to be passed. I'm hopeful that the legislation will move through second reading this week and then and be sent off for more consideration. So I'll make sure our team gets back to you specifically on the matter that's directed to the AG. But look, there's another very important part of this conversation, Bill, that we're addressing. And I'd like Minister Hamid also to dovetail his comments. Retail theft has been a massive problem in Ontario. It's a $9 billion a year problem. People now are so brazen going into a liquor store or a food store that they're just walking out with product. That loss is compounding the increases that we as legal customers in stores have to pay. We want to update a few things, Bill. We want to update the regulations and the standards of security guards, so that if you are a security guard, you should be trained in a way that meets some baseline standard. Unfortunately, the last government kind of buried it into a filing cabinet, never did anything. We're taking it out, and we're going to make it very, very strong so that people will know if you are a security guard you're better trained. There are standards of compliance, and that's one way that we're going to combat retail theft. And on the AG side, Bill, we're looking at having prosecutorial teams that will be specific to combat retail theft of people that violate the law. But I'd invite my colleague for his thoughts.
Thank you, Minister. There's actually a lot with this bill. So we can talk about one of the things that's an issue in my riding and a lot of ridings around GTA, which is illegal truck yards. What we're doing in this bill is, Minister, sorry, I thought you were going to say something. Yeah, so we're actually giving municipalities the power to slap heavy administrative monetary penalties. So these are immediate fines. So rather than having to go to court, which is what happens today, they'll be able to put fines immediately. But at the same time, Ministry of Transportation, under Minister Sakaria, they're also finding Metrolinx land or a government land that could be used for legal truck parking. So a combination of that will be really helpful. Something else that I've heard from a lot of folks is cosmetic pet surgery. So things like declawing cats or cropping dog ears or the vocal cords, tail docking. These are unless they're done by a vet for health emergency, they're going to be outlawed and banned as well. But there's a lot in here. One of the things that I would encourage you to look at is the sex offender registry update. So there are a number of things that we're doing in here that I think we need a lot more time to go through that.
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
Thank you both.
Back to you, Shannon.
Okay, next I will go to Shazia at EOS.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kerzner, for talking to us, and thank you very much for the opportunity, Shannon. I have two questions. First is that this act has been introduced now, but what exactly are the salient features of this act? Because we are not really aware what the act entails. And then the number two thing is that, in the courts, they lack lawyers, they lack public prosecutors, they lack judges. So is there any movement in at least Ontario to hire more judges, to hire more public prosecutors so that the offenders are not really let go so easily? My third part of the question is that there are some criminal gangs that are operating not only in Ontario but across the country, and those gangs are hiring foot soldiers. So is the provincial government aware of it, and is there any crackdown against them? So 3 questions.
Okay, guys, I'll just, in the future, if we could just try and keep it to one question, please, and follow up if we have time. Just trying to answer so many questions at once can get confusing. So
Okay.
I'll just pass it over to the...
I'll try to, again, we're a team, so I'll start, and Minister Hamid will add the balance of the answer. Yeah, well, firstly, our colleague, the Attorney General and the Associate Attorney General, we've been hiring Crown prosecutors like never before. We've been appointing very tough on crime, justice of the pieces. We have been appointing many more justices. That has sped up the court system, and over time, that will allow a predominant amount of the judges to be what we call judges that we appointed since we came to office in June of 2018, who are tougher on crime. The second thing is we're building out an enormous correctional capacity expansion that has never been undertaken like this in the history of the province. The Liberal government, in 15 years, the Ontario Liberal government closed 8 jails. That fact is undeniable, but they never said anything about it. They took 20% of the then capacity offline, but they knew that the population was growing. So we believe that our position of putting $3 billion into capital infrastructure, bringing 2,500 new beds online is the right way to go. And specifically pointing to specific things, the keynotes in this legislation, we touched on it, but it's tackling the illegal towing industry that's preying on vulnerable people. It's making sure that we have public dissemination of information where sex offenders may be lurking in a community, and we think that's executable. We're going to strengthen our transit safety in Toronto, Ottawa, and the areas that GO Metrolinx is responsible by having special constables being able to make arrests. So there's a lot of hallmark pieces, but I'll ask my colleague, my friend, to add a few more.
Thank you, Minister. One of the things I actually do want to call out is, so you mentioned, you kind of touched on bail briefly a little bit. A lot of what we did on the bail front was actually on Bill 75 that just passed. So on what we did on Bill 75 is we moved away from the way bail happens in Canada right now is you get bail simply on the promise to pay a bail deposit. So if you've watched US movies or dramas or videos, they talk about bail bond. So in the United States, you have to actually put money down. In Canada, that doesn't happen. So we're now moving away from the simple promise to pay. So if a bail condition is broken, we will have cash that we can keep. So if the judge sets your bail at let's say $5,000, you'd have to put that money down. And what that means is that province will now be able to go after your property lien or forced sale or anything else to recover that money if you don't comply with the bail conditions. So it adds some teeth into it, but in bigger issue is that criminal code is federal in Canada. So unless the federal government moves faster on the legislation they've introduced, there's only that much we can do at the provincial level. You had mentioned, and I don't want to take too much on this because I want everyone to be able to answer questions, but you had kind of touched on people getting released on bails because of courts. It's really because of our laws. So the way the criminal code is set up, courts are required to release offenders on bail as soon as possible with minimal conditions, and that often means right away with no conditions at all. And that's something we're asking the federal government to change. They have introduced legislation, but it hasn't passed yet, so we're still waiting for that to work through the system.
Yeah, and there was one more thing about the gangs operating in the province.
Oh, yeah. Well, with the gangs, I'll be with our federal public safety minister right after this call. Most of the public's awareness of public safety doesn't necessarily include an appreciation for how much collaboration exists between, and say in your case, Halton or Peel's Regional Police Service, the OPP, the RCMP, CSIS. So there's an enormous amount of collaboration that exists to combat it. We think that the $375 million that has flowed into municipalities through the gun and gangs grant has been very helpful. But yeah, it is a problem. Peel's done a phenomenal job, in the Brampton, Mississauga area, and we're going to continue to work with our federal partners. I'll tell you something, Shazia. In many cases, I think it's a provincial government that's leading the federal government in every way, whether it be on strategy, legislation, regulations, or on a case-by-case basis to fight crime and fight it hard.
Okay, so next I'm going to go to
Thank you.
to Khaled, my second home.
Thank you, Shannon, and thank you, ministers. Actually, I've gone through the bill in general, but I couldn't find something specific when it comes to certain crimes. For instance, you mentioned we will increase, we will enhance, we will strengthen, but not something specific when it comes, for instance, to auto theft or somebody is trying to get into your business or house, or even the organized crimes. Can you please let us know whether you do have something like this, and this should be posted as well for the thugs or criminals to know beforehand if they commit this, they will get that. And the other follow-up, if I may, you mentioned also something about providing some help with the victims of human trafficking. If you please elaborate a little bit more on that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I'll try to be briefer because I want to hear from everybody. Uh, the first part of your question goes to what is our message of deterrent so that fewer people engage in criminal activities? Well, the answer to that is be tougher on crime. Double down and triple down and saying two things. Number one, if somebody is compelled to break the law, because somebody said, why do we need jail? And I said, well, because we have people that cannot conform to the values and morality of Ontario. They have to break the law. We don't ask them to. In that case, we have to have a robust system. So the deterrence is, in fact, reassuring the Ontario public we're tough on crime. And the second point that you raised is when a person has been trafficked, and we have to remove the financial barriers and allow a survivor to rebuild their life. So I think this is amazing. It just goes to how we align ourselves with victims. And I really have to say the opposition parties today don't align themselves with anything, or I think they're better aligned with the criminals. It's funny. I got a question this morning in a media scrum in Niagara Falls, and people were very concerned about us further curtailing the rights of somebody that broke the law, implying that they should be out of jail as quick as humanly possible. And I don't agree with that. Minister Hamid?
No, so you summarized it pretty well. So that's from our end. But Khaled, I think a lot of your questions actually pertain to the federal government because, as I mentioned earlier, they're the ones that set the criminal code, and the criminal code is just way too weak in this country. But we're doing what we can at our level.
Okay, thanks. Next, I'm going to go to Abhishek from Pravasi.
Hello, this is Abhishek from Parvasi Media Group. I have a question for both of you, Minister. Recently, when we are talking about the joint efforts with local police services and federal agencies like CPSA, last week 17 suspects were arrested on extortion charges against South Asian community. One of the main highlights were that none of them were Canadian citizens, and they were all on either a work permit or a study visa. Now, people are actually fed up of having criminals on the street who come from outside, are operated by international gangs, and at the same time, while the accountability might lie with one or the other government level of government, people really are looking forward to solutions rather than the accountability answering on this. So we just want to understand how this bill will actually help for people for criminals. I mean, repeated offenders to actually get deported. Is there any provision for that? Thank you.
Well, thanks a million. What I can say is this, and again, I'm meeting the federal minister just in a couple of hours. The federal government has jurisdiction on the immigration, and that's very important. And in fact, when they lower their standards, as in my opinion, Prime Minister Trudeau did, where anybody could come into Canada, it didn't matter that they represented a substantial threat to our public safety. It mattered that they wanted to just come to Canada, so our doors are open. And now we're understanding that there's people who are here that are a problem. What we want to do is make sure that they know what our code of conduct is. Remember, we are not asking anybody to commit a crime. We're not asking anyone to behave badly, but some do. And again, the anecdote for that is have the strongest message possible on public safety. because you know what? When you have public safety, people will invest, start businesses, raise a family, and we have everything positive. And that's how it has to stay. And with regards to the eventual deportation, hopefully soon, of the criminals that came in abroad, personally, I'd like to see that happen as soon as possible. Minister?
Yeah, so real quick, I mean, I understand the frustration because I've been frustrated by it too. Solicitor General's ministry funds a lot of, there's a lot of grant for police services, and one of the grant is used by police to kind of go after exactly what you talked about. York Police recently did a bust where they, when I say recently, I mean 2 weeks ago, I believe it's called Project Towns. They found crime tourism ring. And crime tourism really means that they're part of a criminal gang and they use different kind of visas, student visa, temporary worker visa, visit visa, to bring the gang members into the country specifically to commit crime. And they commit crime, they get arrested, get out on bail, get arrested, get out on bail, keep doing it until their final court date, and then they go back home wherever they came from. And it is hugely frustrating, not just to us, but the police officers as well, who spend a lot of time and energy doing investigation and arresting them, and to see them get out again. So I completely agree with you. Our government agrees with you, but the problem is that this isn't something in our jurisdiction. I should mention very briefly that whole bail reform area and the strengthening of criminal code is something that Premier Ford organized all 13 premiers in Canada multiple times, actually. So as Premier loves saying that all 13 premiers never agree on anything, not even what day or what time of the day it is, but they agreed on this, and they've written multiple letters to the federal government asking for meaningful bail reform and strengthening of criminal code. But while I share your frustration, it's just not something that our level of government has any jurisdiction over whatsoever.
Yeah.
Sam. Yeah, thank you, Minister.
All right, next I'm going to go to Rami at Oxygen.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I would like to ask about football World Cup, which is soccer World Cup. There is a lot of visitors coming to Ontario for watching the games, and are there any extra legislations have been happened to avoid any kind of increase in crimes or violence or anything come with some of the visitors? The second questions, we have a catastrophic C-75. Are there any legal way to lessen the negative effects of this C-75 Ontario? I mean, are there any bills could be done on the provincial level to make Ontarians more safety to avoid these effects of C-75? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'll kick it off. Minister wants to talk about C-75, but what I'll tell you with FIFA, Rami, is there is an unprecedented, never before a level of such integrated work that's being done by Toronto Police Service here in Toronto, my police service, with the surrounding GTHA services in tow, OPP, CBSA, RCMP, and CSIS. The amount of work is substantial, but let's face it, we are showcasing Ontario to the world. And I'm very proud of that. I was there with Minister Anandan Sangari and Mayor Chow recently to go over kind of the strategic investments that all three levels of government are making, and they're substantial. And in the end of the day, what we want to make sure is that people can come here and feel that Toronto has really showcased itself. But Minister, do you want to give a chit chat about Bill 75?
Yeah, I'll be really quick. I mean, Bill 75, Rami, and another Milton guy, so really happy to see you. It's something we've discussed before. It completely broke the criminal code. After a lot of our lobbying, the previous prime minister didn't want to move on it, but the current prime minister did bring multiple bills forward. There's Bill C-14 federally as well as C-16. What C-14 does is actually does one thing that we have been asking for, which is it changes it to reverse onus. And what that means is today under Bill 75, the Crown had to prove to the judge that the person should not get bail because they're a threat to public safety. And as you can imagine, if the bail hearing happens 6 hours after they're arrested, there's just no time to do that. Now, for different things like home invasion, for auto theft, for extortion, for human trafficking and smuggling, there's reverse onus, meaning by default, they don't get bail unless they can convince the judge that they're no longer a threat to public safety. That's really how it used to be under Harper. Bill C-75 kind of broke that, changed that, and it's going back to the old ways, which is good. It also changes. So what happens today is that if you, for example, let's talk about extortion, right? If you have three different charges of extortion that are proven, you actually do concurrent sentencing. So you serve all three at the same time. They're changing it for certain things like extortion or violent auto theft to consecutive sentencing, meaning you have to serve one and then the other and then the other. So if you get 6 months for each, you're serving a year and a half and not 6 months at the same time. There's also another bill, C-18, that I won't talk too much about, but it does help us in fixing court delays. A lot of especially when it comes to sexual crime and child abuse and other things, investigations can take a while. There's a Jordan rule where if it takes a certain amount of time, the judges will throw out the case and let the person go. So the federal government is finally fixing that, and they're also reevaluating some mandatory minimum in certain areas. So it doesn't fix all the problems you want fixed. These bills are really good first steps, but we're working with our federal counterparts to make sure that the progress stays up. And if you ever talk to anyone from the federal level, as the minister said earlier, at the provincial level, we have two justice bills like clockwork, a spring justice bill and fall justice bill. It allows us to react very quickly. And my ask to the feds is that, look, don't go years without doing anything. We need to keep up with it and just bring two bills every year like we do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rami.
All right, next I'm going to go to Rajinder. Rajinder, are you able to unmute and ask your question?
Can you hear me, Shannon?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, Mr. Harrow, how are you?
Well, we're great.
Okay, Mr. I don't have any question. I just want to bring to your attention what's going on at the community level. I'm working in media for last 25 years. And recently, for the last couple of years, we were seeing here that the people who are successful businesses, they are being targeted by the extortionists, all these criminals. But now, recently, we have seen a trend that people who have very small kind of business, even they are being targeted, whether at the workplace or at their home. I'm just giving you one example. My just next door, my neighbor, this guy is running two small time businesses, stores. And last week, he was targeted at his home around 12 o'clock in the night. 8 shots were fired at his house. Now, this is the third incident on our street. So I understand I'm interviewing federal ministers, I'm interviewing premier, provincial ministers, chief of police, mayors. Everybody is telling their own story. So many laws have been amended. Police is doing its job, no question about that. 17 people have been arrested. But I'm telling you, people are losing faith, trust, confidence in the law enforcement agencies. They feel now that, no, they are at the mercy of these criminals. Whenever they want, they can come, they can shoot at their houses, their businesses. Police will come. They will tell them that, look, don't listen to these guys, don't attend their calls. But end of the day, they are not finding any relief. That's what I'm telling you. That is the perception in the community, which is really, really concerning, alarming for all of us.
Well, I really want to thank you, Rajinder, for the comment, because Sundays is usually my outing day to get some shopping done, and Premier encourages all member of caucus, go to your neighborhood grocery store, go to Shoppers, go to Home Depot, and engage people. I'm hearing something different. Yes, there are a group of our community that feel like it's time to throw in the towel. We're not doing that. We're doubling down, and we're going to triple down. on investments to police services, the grants. We have something called the Community Safety and Policing Grant, money that's available to almost every police service in Ontario. It's over $90 million last year. We've got a lot of tough on crime legislation that people are buying into. But I have to set a tone, which Minister Hamid and I follow the Premier. We will be unapologetic. We will be relentless in making sure that we come forward with tough on crime legislation and regulations and make sure that we have grants that help get us to the finish line. But I'm not hearing everybody's scared. The people who have been victimized are scared because it's a traumatic experience, and I understand that. But our police services are made up of incredible men and women. And Rajinder, you know, you can quote me on this. We are not stopping. We are going to double down and triple down on even tougher deterrences to get people not to do this. And really tougher deterrence means tougher laws. And that's what we're going to do.
So, Minister Kerzner, with this, I'll have to leave you. So you'll have to take the rest of the questions yourself because I have to be back on in the House. Session's on, and Minister and I had excusal for a little bit, and so we have to overlap, unfortunately. So it was nice being here. Thank you for allowing me to answer some questions, and thank you for the questions.
Thanks, Minister.
Okay, so assuming nobody else has any questions, I can go back. I know, Bill, you had a follow-up that you wanted to
Yes,
ask.
thank you. Actually, I want to ask Minister Hamid if he hasn't left yet.
If you wanna send me the question, I can.
Well, I can simply ask Minister Kerzner
Okay.
to pass on my concern. I think the community at large is supporting stricter bail terms. I heard Minister Hamid say that now the federal code provides for reverse onus situation, which means that the accused, if breaches, then they have to prove instead of the Crown that the evidence is there. They have the onus, in other words, to prove that. That exists now. But what I was a bit surprised to see the cash deposit. Now, that I think the community will have a lot of alert. In other words, now the way it is in bail, the surety or someone who guarantees compliance of the terms of bail does not deposit the amount, but it's named. And then if there's a breach, then the Crown has the right to collect that money, which is called a treatment of bail amount. Well, where the amendment should be is on collecting that money if a repeated breacher of bail does that, or a convicted of the same crime many times. Yes, the community, I think, will support that. But if it means for every surety or a person that comes to help the courts, so people, either will be released or not released, that will limit the number of sureties that will come forth if they have to deposit upfront the money as it's done in the United States. And there you have a situation where the wealthy accused or sureties can deposit the amounts. And if you don't deposit it, you go to jail because you cannot contest it. And I think that's something that the government should be concerned about. If it's only about repeated bail breaches, I think the community will support it. But if it's going closer to the American system, that only the wealthy ones can upfront that deposit, and then if it happens in Ontario, not only less people will come forth as sureties, but the jails will be impacted even more than they are now. So perhaps you can pass on that concern in your caucus or your colleagues.
Well, thank you, Bill. But let me clarify something that I think will help you and your listeners. It's the courts that will set the security deposit. So the courts, which is separate from the ministry, either my ministry or AG Downey, we have no control on what they will do. But what we're having now is that people are leaving the jails with a promise to pay. And what's happening is there is a cycle that some, not all, are repeat offenders, that they just come back because the judges are very weak. We think this sends a message out. Again, one of the people asked, how do we combat crime? We combat it different ways, but one of the ways is having a deterrent. I'm not telling people to commit a crime because you want to see my jails. I don't need you in my jails. I need you in my jails if you've broken the law. But when we canvass this bill, when I go to No Frills on Sunday morning and we talk about the government's strong position on public safety, I'll tell you what we hear. People feel safe. Businesses want to open. Big companies are attracted to invest a large sum of money, and Minister Fedeli goes around the world as Ontario's best salesperson to find people to invest. When large companies made historic commitments to invest in the province, and we were matched up against US jurisdictions in Tennessee or in other southern states, what we found is that the enhancement on the government's tone on public safety is an advantage. It doesn't mean that they came here only because that we're tough on crime. But remember, tough on crime is reassuring the 99.99%, or Bill, what I call the virtually everyone, that somebody is concerned for your welfare. And we went through 15 years that nobody cared. And we said, that's not what we're going to do. So I like to use the expression, Bill, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. But when it comes to making sure that the rights of an accused are absolutely there, they are there. But we're telling people, remember why you went to jail in the first place. And when the judge orders the court-ordered conditions for your release, do everyone a favor. Do yourself a favor. Live by the law.
Okay, thank you. So that was the last question that I had received. So Minister, unless you had any final closing thoughts, we can wrap up for the afternoon.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon, and thank you to all our media here. Listen, I very, very much appreciate the outreach that you do in all the communities across our province. It's more important now than ever that you communicate, that you listen to the communities of what's concerned, and that you stay in touch with us, because you know how the Premier is. We give out our numbers, the Premier gives out his number, I give out my number, and that's how we listen to people, and we know what direction people are asking us to do. But from a tragedy should come purpose. When we lost Andrew Christillo, that a person that should not have been driving a car recklessly killed him last August, we came forward in the public safety bill before this one with Andrew's Law. That's putting incredible a message out that if you're driving recklessly, if you're going to do some damage and alter a person's life and a family's life, there is a price that has to be paid. So our message on public safety is one that we care about everyone's welfare. And that's why I think Premier Ford's been very successful, both provincially, but as he's leading the message across the country, trust me, other provinces are saying, we need to follow Ontario because they get it. And I want to also acknowledge Prime Minister Carney, because if it wasn't for him listening to Premier Ford, I don't know that they would have come forward with meaningful bail reform. And it's not just dealing with the reverse onus, it's understanding what is a hate crime, because hate crimes can affect all communities in Ontario. So, we work very, very well with our municipal levels of government and with the federal level of government. But it's not to go along to get along. It's to go along and to tell them we need safe communities. We need the municipalities to provide the greatest source of funding, and we need the federal government to have tough criminal laws. I think we're in a good place And as I like to say, and I said it this morning at 2 conferences, Shannon, we're going to go from strength to strength because we care about protecting Ontario. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.